What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home here at fakepigskin.com. I am your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. What's up, Brian Twining? We got players on the move.
Oh man, I was having such a good day. I got off of work on time today. I went to the beach after work, and then I get into my car and I'm driving home and I'm at a stoplight and boom, I get a notification that Leonard Fournette signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What the hell is happening?
Yes, we are here. We're talking some Leonard Fournette to the Bucs. All right, let's woosah. Oftentimes, as a community, as we do, we tend to take something that happens and make it way bigger than it needs to be, and tend to make it a bigger thing than it needs to be. He signed a 1-year deal, $2 million guaranteed, up to $3.5 million. Rock Nation posted a photo of him wearing the 27 of our boy Ronald Jones, which a little salt in the wounds there, I guess. From a Tampa perspective, from a Buccaneers perspective, what do we make of Fournette? Is Fournette a guy who, like 2 of the 3 seasons he comes in, 250 plus carries, maybe not the nearly 100 targets he saw last year, but even if it's 70% of that, 70 targets, that's obviously somebody that we're going to be interested in. Is that a player we're going to see this year in Tampa Bay?
I mean, I don't see a reality where Leonard Fournette is not getting, 55% at minimum, 60% of the carries, and in a Tom Brady-led offense who is more than likely going to be playing up tempo because he's in control of that offense. I just think for those who were able to get Fournette on the cheap with the in fantasy drafts prior to today, with just the uncertainty about what was going on in Jacksonville and all that stuff, even with such a short duration that he'll have to prepare in this playbook, like I think he steps right into that role that LeGarrette Blount filled for Tom Brady in New England as that battering ram style running back. And Fournette, for all the crap that we talk about him, even last year, it was only touchdowns that prevented him from being in that top, 15, top 10 conversation. And I mean, the dude, when he's healthy, he's one of the best pure runners in the NFL.
Yeah, when he's healthy being the key sentence. Obviously, last year he played 15 games, had a great season. The year before that, played 8 games, had a terrible season, 130 rushes for 430 yards, found the end zone 5 times. Obviously, his rookie year, 13 games, 268 rushes, 1,000 yards. So even if we say he plays 13, 14 games, or even if he plays 16 and gets that 268, over 1,000, 10 touchdowns, like that feels very viable. But it also feels like he could play the 8 games. They could give him a couple games and he could not be what they kind of expected. He could have issues with the passing, or with the the pass blocking scheme, or the playbook, or something. Obviously, if they get him over 4 yards a carry, he's going to be great. But we've also seen guys like this play in a Tom Brady-led offense and then find their way to the sidelines more often than not because they need somebody who can be effective on third downs and be involved in the passing game. So if that's going to be the case, then yes, you're right. And we need to talk about where his ADP is going to end up, because though it's so frustrating to me because the first 2 years with Fournette, I was completely out. But I was like, okay, mid to late 3rd round pick. I'm very happy to take a shot here. I think he's going to get the volume. Maybe it works out for me. So now these, I guess,
This is such an interesting topic, dude.
Ronald Jones is just dead, right? That's how we should approach this backfield. Like, as much as we want him to be a thing, he's not going to be a thing for this team.
Now, so that's something I'm glad you brought that up because I mean we've talked about Ronald Jones so many times on here. We're the self-anointed Rojo fan club here. I don't think his value is completely dead just yet, based on what you kind of mentioned on how, say, Fournette doesn't pick up the offense and Tom Brady wants a guy who is familiar with what Bruce Arians is trying to run there. I think that's still Rojo. I mean, just yesterday, Tampa Bay was outspoken about how Ronald Jones was a 3-down back.
Yes,
So,
and today they signed Leonard Fournette. So either they're full of shit or like
well,
I don't.
for the money that they're getting Fournette,
Yeah,
I don't see why a team wouldn't have signed him. Like he's a much better football player than what people give him credit for when he's on the field. Now, I don't know how much of that is due to his injuries, or maybe we should look more into Jacksonville being a franchise to what Adam Gase is to players. Like Adam Gase is just horrible for players, and
yeah.
maybe it's just Jacksonville in general is just the place that keeps players down.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk Jaguars here in a bit and where the volume is going to go from there. But I do wonder if Rojo ends up somewhere else. Between the injuries and the turnover of the position in general, a team in Jacksonville needing a starting running back, a team in Washington needing a starting running back, a team in New England needing a starting running back, potentially New Orleans needing a starting running back. There's a few situations where he could make sense. But yeah, I'm really curious to see like how fast he can get on the field, how fast he can pick up the offense, and if he's involved in third down. Because if all those things are check, this is a guy that I'm going to love. So obviously with Brady and Gronk, it seems like the Tampa offense is just being vaulted in fantasy drafts. Leonard Fournette was a mid to late third round pick. This is the weekend. I have like 5 fantasy drafts. You have a bunch. Everybody's drafting this weekend. Leonard Fournette will be a what round pick?
I could see him going as early as the mid-second now. I mean, just playing behind Tom Brady, just knowing what Tom Brady means to an offense in general, especially running backs, as we've seen it time and time again with Dion Lewis, LeGarrette Blount, Sony Michel, who, by all accounts, what we've seen is really not that exciting of a runner. Even Sony Michel was going, third-round ADP just because he was playing in an offense led by Tom Brady, and now you put a Leonard Fournette in there who, when he came out of college, many people thought he was like the second coming of Adrian Peterson. So the talent is there. He's only 25. He's on a 1-year deal. It's basically, prove it to earn it. And, I don't see why Fournette isn't going to be trying his best to put out his best performances either.
Yeah, and so like I'm looking back, like 2017, he was a first round pick. Or no, 2018 rather. 2019, he was a mid-second round pick. Obviously, this year there was some question about where he may end up, how much volume he may be. I think you're right. I think that mid-second, like I'm looking at half point ADP right now on Fantasy Football Calculator, and Aaron Jones is a 206. After him at the end of the second is James Conner, Chris Carson. Leonard Fournette is mid-third right now. I think he jumps a full round. I think he's kind of in that middle round range. I think he goes somewhere after Miles Sanders, but before James Conner, Chris Carson, right in that Aaron Jones range. Eckler I could see him going above Eckler, above Kenyon Drake. It all depends on the league, right? If it's a league that vaults up passing more often, maybe Drake goes, maybe Eckler goes. Now my other question is, based upon landing spot, based upon us not really being comfortable saying, yes, he's going to get the volume. Yes, he's going to supplant Rojo. Are you Okay. Were you drafting him in the third? And if he's in that late second, early third round range, are you taking a shot?
So, this is difficult because I was looking at Fournette, but I would have passed him up had David Johnson, Todd Gurley, even for me, Le'Veon, all the talk about Frank Gore, like I just don't see a world where Le'Veon isn't getting 80-90% of the touches out of that
we are
backfield.
talking about the actual Adam Gates that you referred to.
I know, but so yeah, I was avoiding him, in where his ADP was going, and he's probably somebody that I just think because the fever pitch is going to hit so high this upcoming weekend, he'll be a guy that I'll let everyone else take the bait right now without sight unseen, basically, and I'll be reaping the rewards with getting the guys like Miles Sanders, Aaron Jones, James Conner, who both of us really like, if because he's going to be the bell cow if he's healthy. So
yeah, so I was drafting Fournette in the third. I have a couple shares. I won't draft him in the mid-second. That partially because of the way I draft. If I'm drafting a running back if I'm going, running back with one of my first two picks, it's because Josh Jacobs or Joe Mixon or Miles Sanders fell to me. I did a 10-man draft this weekend, which I forgot how much fun those are. Those drafts are mind-boggling. I got Joe Mixon in the third round. That's what 10-man home league drafts do. So yeah, I just Gurley was. I'm with you. I love Todd Gurley. I'm a big fan, and if I'm starting a running back run in the third, that's who I'm going after. Now, are you? So let's say, I'm going to look up Ronald Jones right now, but this is a guy we were our wait on running back drafters were loving. Grabbing in the 5th or 6th round with, Dave Montgomery, Kareem Hunt, DeAndre Swift. He's obviously not going to go there. If he falls to, I don't know, let's say the 8th, 9th round. So around names like Matt Breida, Latavius Murray, Tariq Cohen, Damian Harris, Sony Michel. Are you pulling the trigger on Ronald Jones potentially becoming a thing or ending up somewhere and getting a workhorse? Or are you waiting till he's in the, I don't know, 10th or 11th round around, D'Angelo Henderson and Tony Pollard and AJ Dillon before you're comfortable saying, I'll take my shot here?
I would be more comfortable taking Rojo in that 9th round range, because guys like Latavius Murray, who you and I are constantly, pounding the drum for, we know what his role is in that Saints offense, and it's an easy flex play basically week to week with RB1 upside. Now Rojo, we don't really know what we're going to see here. I would definitely take him over any of the Patriots running backs, because that's always been a mess there in New England.
Yeah.
And probably even over Breida and Tariq Cohen, just based on the fact of potential running the ball if he were to see more carries. But it's terrifying now to think about all these shares that I have of Ronald Jones could go absolutely to waste.
Yeah.
Now because they signed Leonard Fournette.
Yeah. So I guess for me, it really depends on roster construction. If I have a Latavius Murray, if I have two running backs that I'm fine starting, and I want to take a shot on a guy that I think still has the same upside, obviously much lower downside now. But I think, if I can afford to let him sit on my bench and he's not going to kill me, I don't mind taking him in that 8th, 9th round range. Now, if I go DeAndre Swift or my boy J.K. Dobbins or Kareem Hunt or Alexander Madison, guys I need to pop before I can use them, then yeah, I'm probably avoiding him and letting somebody, and then going with somebody that like a Jordan Howard, like Tevin Coleman, Matt Breida, Latavius Murray, guys that I feel like, okay, I don't love starting them week 1, but if I do start them, I feel okay that they're going to at least get me something, and then I can go from there.
Yeah, you're not going to get a goose egg out of those guys.
Right. Let's head to Jacksonville. Let's talk about that situation. The Chris Thompson hype train is just rolling down the tracks.
I think rightfully so. In full PPR leagues, I think he's the guy.
I think in full PPR leagues, you'll get 7 to 10 games out of him. You'll enjoy those 7 to 10 games. You'll get 6 to 7 catches. And we could talk about what we expect this offense to look like. But in half or standard, I
want no piece.
No interest. No interest.
None.
I will say if Raquel Armstead is floating around in your deep leagues, in your dynasty leagues, I think it's worth taking a shot. He's a guy that I've liked a lot coming out of Temple. You can look at kind of his metrics and for a guy who is 5'11", 220, he's in the 91st percentile in 40-yard dash, 94th percentile in speed score. Pretty agile. Player Profiler has Lamar Miller as his best comp. A player I like, and unfortunately or fortunately, at running back, volume is really important. And if we know that he's going to get 220, even if it's mostly first and second down work, and then Chris Thompson coming in for kind of the third down short and like 2-minute drills type situations. We know Chris Thompson's not getting the ball on the goal line, or at least in theory, anything that's a running play shouldn't go to him. So Armstead should come in. So maybe he doesn't have, a Leonard Fournette like monster season and become like a top 12 guy. But I could see a scenario where he gets 220 carries, gets like 1,000 yards, and then like 4 or 5 touchdowns. Like I think that's, and for when you're shooting for the stars, when you're a person who either waits at running back and just wants guys with upside, or if you go running back early and then you're pounding receivers and tight ends and everything else, and you want to come back to running back, he's going to be sitting there waiting for you and give you a legit shot at potentially being the guy. And if you hold him for a couple weeks, you realize he's just not it, or they're, a Gardner Minshew team where they're throwing 60, 70 times a game. And for someone who acquired Gardner Minshew and is targeting DJ Chark everywhere, I don't hate the sound of that, but I think it's a gamble worth taking.
Yeah, I mean, if it's at the end of your bench for any of these guys on Jacksonville, but more so for Armstead in half PPR standard, and then Thompson in PPR. Yeah, I mean, volume is king in fantasy football, and if you have a spot near the end of your bench, you're going to want a guy who's potentially the starter. And for me, he's like the perfect dude that if he busts out like the first couple weeks, I'm looking to trade him for a better known player on a team who's like started off slow, like looking to trade him for Latavius Murray even, or an Alexander Madison, because I would rather have the upside of those guys than the clear ceiling that you're going to have with any of these Jaguars running.
Well, and I love trading for the Kareem Hunts, the Alexander Madisons, those guys that you're going to have to wait on, because those owners are going to get, it's week 2 and they haven't done anything. I need to get somebody who can actually do something on my roster, and then that's where you swoop in, get that steal, and call it a day. So for the Jaguars offense in general, like, do you think we see more of a Gardner Minshew-led passing attack, throw it all over the yard? I mean, obviously, we don't have high expectations for the offense. Or is this an offense that might be really frustrating for fantasy, and we get DJ Chark has a really good season for the receiver, and then kind of nothing else from the rest of the team?
It's kind of an offense I'm avoiding. I mean, other than Shark's upside, just with the amount of times that they are going to have to pass, I do think the departure of Leonard Fournette actually opens up the offense a little bit, and they don't feel as obligated to kind of feed their first round monster in the backfield. And I think we are going to see a little more freestyle out of the offense, with a little more Minshew mania going on back there. So they could surprise some people early on, run a lot of spread. You could see them kind of play a lot of hurry up, but I'm not excited by any means for the Jaguars prospects this season on offense.
Yeah. Like, I think Minshew makes a great streaming option when the matchup dictates it. Obviously, Chark's somebody I'm interested in. I do wonder what this means for Laviska Shenault, and if he becomes a guy that I'm a little more interested in as the draft goes along, especially because we saw him at Colorado. They found unique ways to get him the ball at end arounds, on bubble screens, on different things. I wonder if they, a lack of a true workhorse, as you said, function guy that they feed their offense into, maybe they open it up a little bit more and do some more unique things and find different ways to get him the ball. Because I think, as a talent, as a guy who, if you talk to people who play in Devy leagues and have been, tracking this draft class for a long time, he was a guy that everyone loved. He kind of the hype faded back a little bit, but he's still a really talented player with tons of athleticism. So I will be curious to see if he pops. Brian, before we leave the Leonard Fournette situation and we talk about another team in the division, I was told Keyshawn Vaughn is the running back to own in Tampa Bay. Twitter told me that he was the best player and that he would get all the work and he would be awesome. Is Keyshawn Vaughn somebody that so let's start here. For redraft purposes, is Keyshawn Vaughn worth anything? Like, I don't
even think he's worth your watch list. Like, I almost feel if they go into the season and LaShawn McCoy makes the roster, I feel like you're going to see the depth chart be Fournette and Rojo are going to be those, like, the 1A, 1B runners. And I think there is a possibility that McCoy is actually the third down receiving back for Tom Brady, as he's more of that shifty kind of style that Brady likes. And then Keyshawn Vaughn is simply a punt returner and kick returner, and that's all he does his entire rookie season.
So for redraft purposes for just this year, I'm no interest in Keyshawn Vaughn. I will say if you can get him on a discount in Dynasty, I don't hate knocking on doors and seeing what the price tag is, because I still think Rojo is a better player. I still think had Fournette been there, it would have been the Rojo show. But this says to me, we're not quite there yet. We want to take a shot. Obviously, Fournette will be probably gone after this season. We'll see where Rojo ends up, whether he's there or if he gets traded before the season. There's a clear path with a year or two for Keyshawn Vaughn to be the feature. And obviously, this offense will probably change a ton because, by the time he's actually...
Probably also without Tom Brady too.
Right.
So.
No Brady, no Gronk, no, this is really a team going, okay, here's our window. Let's buy in. Let's play it. Let's see what happens. That rarely ever works out. So if you're looking at win totals and betting odds, I would not bet the Bucs to win the Super Bowl, or I might look to take the under. It just, like, history's shown us that this path rarely works.
They feel like the Rams to me of the last couple years, where they were just loading up on whoever was the biggest name. They're just bringing them in.
Well, it's the old Washington scenario where Daniel Snyder would go out and buy. And it was really funny because I saw like a thing on Twitter. It was like, oh, this is like when the Heat got LeBron and Wade and Ray Allen and someone was like, no, this is like when the Nets got Darren Williams and Brooke Lopez and Kevin Garnett. And that had me rolling.
Oh man.
All right, before we get out of here, we're going to go to the Big Easy. We're going to talk some Alvin Kamara. Is this holdout, not holdout? Saw what Joe Mixon got paid, immediately said he could be had via trade. Obviously, this is a team with a short window. Like, is this news? Is Alvin Kamara potentially on the move, or is there something to worry about here? Or is this just noise where it's like, oh, Joe Mixon got paid, Alvin Kamara wants to get paid like Christian McCaffrey numbers or more, and he's kind of like using this as an opportunity to get his name in the paper?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely news. If you're already an Alvin Kamara owner like myself in a couple leagues, it's a little worrisome just because no matter where he were to go, if they were to ship him out, there's no way he would get the same type of usage in those offenses. But in terms of the validity of him holding out and the possibility of them actually trading him, I just don't see them doing that, just based on the fact that he is so important to what they do on that offense. And because you see it when he misses games, the offense changes. Like the running game changes. It becomes more of an outside passing game. You see less of those like quick screens to Kamara and such. And he's just such a dynamic player. I think New Orleans would be out of their minds not to try to get a deal done with this guy.
Yeah. So obviously, like, he's back in practice. He had a conversation with Sean Payton. Things are better. But he also wants to get paid. Mixon got basically 12 per. Christian McCaffrey's like 15 or 16. He wants to get around there. This is obviously a key piece to what they do. and very important for them as a Super Bowl team, a go deep in the playoffs team. So, we'll see. Like, I could see the Saints being like, we'll give you 2 years at 16 million, but we're not giving you 4 years at 16. We'll give you 4 years at like 11 or 12, like what Mixon got. We'll see. I'm not super worried. That being said, we told you to draft Latavius Murray. Now,
and we told you to draft Latavius Murray.
also, and Kamara could go nowhere. And you know who's still going to be valuable? Latavius Murray. Who will be going outside, going in the double-digit rounds, consistently performs for fantasy owners. I don't understand. But if something were to happen to Kamara and he ends up elsewhere, Latavius Murray walks into volume, walks into goal line carries on a up-tempo, high-scoring offense, and could be a easy top 10, top 12 option come season's end. So
I do want to make one more point on the Kamara situation. The first thing that I did when that news first popped about them doing this and him potentially holding out was I went and checked to see if it was actually Ty Montgomery who was the one who was on the free agent wire in a full PPR league that I'm in, because I did find it interesting when they signed him, as Montgomery is more of a receiving style running back. And I almost felt like that was like now looking back, that was a preemptive move, that they had some sort of inclination that Kamara might possibly think about holding out.
Yeah, and obviously Montgomery wouldn't walk into all of the volume, but if he walks into most of that passing work and some carries, maybe 30%. So instead of Kamara getting 60, Latavius getting 30, and then 10% of whatever they do with Taysom Hill, maybe it's 60% Latavius, 30% Montgomery, and then whatever they do with Taysom Hill. But it is interesting that they paid Taysom Hill and they didn't pay, and they paid Jameis Winston, but they don't want to pay Alvin Kamara. So we'll see how this shakes out. There's a lot of hemming and hawing and posturing and kind of figuring things out. But I think we're both in agreement that if you're going to a draft this weekend, still comfortable drafting Alvin Kamara in our top 5?
Oh yeah, dude. I said this last year with Ezekiel Elliott too. Maybe that was 2 years ago with Zeke. It's, every once in a blue moon, it'll bite you in the ass, like it did for those who took Le'Veon Bell after Le'Veon Bell threatened to hold out. But I mean, for the most part, you just don't see guys, hold out and still maintain value in real life football, as has seen with Melvin Gordon, Le'Veon Bell. So I don't think any of these guys are actually going to stand their ground and not play games. So yeah, I'm drafting Alvin Kamara top 5.
Yeah. And even if he's say in that top four conversation, right? And you have one owner that goes Michael Thomas, and then you have one owner that maybe gets cold feet and be like, why is Kamara still here? I can't trust that. I got to do something else. And then all of a sudden you're sitting there at like 6 or 7, he falls in your lap. That's victory. And I'm taking that all day, and we'll see how that pans out for me this weekend. All right, Brian, this was fun. For those that don't normally come around here, we talk fantasy football all year long. We are getting ready to record our bold predictions, and these takes are going to be hot fire. So make sure you subscribe to the show. If you're enjoying what we're doing, hit the thumbs up. Let us know in the comments. Are you drafting Alvin Kamara in the top 5? Is that somebody that or do you think there's more to worry about here? And for Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to you guys next time.